Burnout is more than just being tired at the end of a long semester. Let's talk about how you can recover, reset, and return with purpose. Welcome to Speaking of Higher Ed. I'm Andrew Everett, and this is episode 41. In today's episode, we're talking about faculty burnout, recovery, and what it looks like to reconnect with purpose in our work. Our guest today is Dr. Patrice Buckner Jackson, also known as Dr. PBJ. She's an educator, executive coach, speaker, and the author of Disrupting Burnout, the professional woman's lifeline to finding purpose. Her work focuses on helping educators and other service-oriented professionals do meaningful work without burning themselves out. Dr. Jackson, welcome to the podcast. We're glad you're here.
Oh, it's such an honor to join you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So before we talk about burnout, will you share with us the path that brought you to the work you're doing today?
Oh, my friend. So this story is one of my favorite to share right now because it's one of the deepest lessons I've ever learned in my life. I worked in higher education for about 26 years. In my 20th year, a mentor contacted me and said, hey, there's a vice president's position open here in the system. You're a perfect fit. You should really think about this. I think it's time. I wasn't sure. I wasn't looking. I wasn't searching at all. I was very settled where I was serving at the time. But something about this particular opportunity just kept calling. Every time I tried to shoo it away, I thought about it more. So I decided to throw my name in the hat and go through the process, and I got the job. And I will tell you, at first it was an adventure, a new space, new people. The students were excited. The community rallied around this institution. So I was so honored to be a part of this movement. I will tell you, 10 months in to this promotion, August 2019, I drove to work that morning. I could barely see for the tears in my eyes. I pulled into my assigned designated parking space. And that day, that's the last place I wanted to be because I didn't want anyone to see me in the condition I was in. I tried to pull myself together. I wiped my tears. I was giving myself a pep talk, doing deep breathing, all of the things, not knowing what was happening to me. Mm-hmm. When I finally felt like I could walk, I got out of the car, walked into the student center. I put on that professional mask as snugly as I could. I smiled. I said hello. I said good morning. It was all I could do to get behind the door of my office. And I crumbled. I remember holding on to the edge of my wooden desk because I didn't even feel like I could hold my own weight up anymore. What I really wanted to do was crawl under that desk and lie there in the fetal position. But then shame showed up and said, what are they going to think? What will they say if they walk in and find you curled up under your desk? At some point, I picked up the phone to call my husband, and I remember trying to explain to him what was happening, and I'm sure I wasn't making a whole lot of sense. At some point, he interrupted me. He said, whoa, wait a minute. Just go home. Go home, take care of yourself. I'll come check on you later. Just go home. Well, it was August. August does not go home time in education. August is not put your feet up, take care of yourself, feel better. August is go time. We had move-in happening. There were cars wrapped around the highway. All of those cars had TVs that were too big for the residence halls. We had a lobby full of students with questions and problems and challenges. My team was stationed all over campus, welcoming students and their parents back. Everything was happening and I was falling apart. And I started thinking about my calendar. At 8:30, I have to do this. At 9:30, I have to do that. 10 o'clock, I have to be across town. There's a lunch thing and a 3 o'clock thing and 4 and 7 and 8:30. And at one point I said, I can't stop. I don't get to stop. If I stop, it all falls apart. So no, I can't go home. No, I can't take care of myself. I cannot stop. The whole house of cards will fall if I stop. And he said, I'll be at home in 10 minutes. If you're not there, I'm coming to get you. When he hung up, something happened in my heart. I typed a letter, printed that letter. I went to where my university president was in a meeting. And when that meeting ended and the door opened, I handed them that letter. And all I could say was, I'm so sorry. And I'll never forget the worry and the concern and the questions on their face. And all I could say was, I am so sorry. And I left. And I did not go back. And I was out of work for 5 months. No income. No one calling my phone. No one expecting me to show up anywhere. It was the first time in my life that I stopped. And it was the first time in my life that I realized I didn't know how to stop. For the sake of our time, I'll let you know that I did go back to work in January 2020. That's when I came to work at Augusta University. So grateful to the administration and leadership there who knew me and worked with me in the past and knew the kind of work that I did and gave me another chance. The demand was more. The pressure was increased. We were doing all the things that 2020 called for, but I was better. So what I get to teach now are the strategies I learned through my research, through my healing, through my recovery. I shared those strategies with educators, with folks who work with their empathy meter on high all the time, with folks who have full schedules and feel if they stop just for a moment, the whole house of cards is going to come down, with folks who don't know how to take a break, with folks who don't know how to stop. My heart, my goal is to share these strategies so they don't have to find themselves in the position that I was in August 2019.
Well, thank you for sharing that personal story. I think sometimes we feel like if we fill up our calendar, we look ahead and oh, I've got a busy day tomorrow. It's great that it'll distract us from our struggles that we're not dealing with within. And I too have found that actually does not actually help. So thank you for sharing that. Now we want to dive into your experience and hear how you can help us prepare for what's next and to refresh. So when you use the word burnout, what do you mean and how does that differ from, oh, it's just been a long semester?
Oh, that's a good question. That's such a good question because it's been a long semester for everybody, right?
every semester is a long semester.
Every semester has been a long semester. Yeah. So let's start with the World Health Organization. So the World Health Organization has an official definition of burnout, not a diagnosis, but a definition that helps us have a conversation. And that definition is categorized by 3 things that people should be aware of. Extreme exhaustion, detachment from the work, and concerns about your ability to be successful in the work. So it's one thing to be tired and to feel, gosh, I gave my best and now I need a moment to recover. I need a moment to rest. It's another thing to be exhausted to the point that you can't think straight, that your memory is impacted, that you're not keeping up with the flow of your life. You're missing things. You're always dropping things. It's another thing to be exhausted to the point that you question if you still want to do the work or if you made a good decision in stepping into this field in the first place. It's another thing to be exhausted to the point that you wonder if you're any good at this anymore. That's burnout. Now, I'd like to take it a bit further or deeper because I think we need to talk about what I call the phases before actual burnout. Because I hope this conversation will connect with people who might identify themselves maybe in burnout, but there are a couple of phases, and this is the way that I teach it. So this is just PBJ. There are a couple of phases before you get to that point that I think if we start having these conversations and start intervening early, we will have less of our faculty members and our educators making it to the burnout point. In the first phase of burning out, I call it surviving. In surviving, you know the load is heavy. So let's speak to our faculty members. You have teaching and learning. Then you have research and maybe grants. You have publications. You have service to the institution. And these are just things you're doing at work. Many of you have family members, loved ones, and friends outside of work. You have a community who depends on you. So this is about the whole person, not just your professional accolades, not just your responsibilities at work, but every part of your life contributes to where you are. In surviving, we've normalized it and we call it adulting. Everybody's tired. If you're not tired, what are you doing? Right? We feel like we're on the roller coaster and we really wish somebody would stop the ride just for a moment so that we can breathe. I don't want to quit. I don't want to run away, but I need a minute. I need a minute. If you don't do something different in surviving, then you move to the phase I call overwhelm. And overwhelm, it feels like the water level of your life is rising and you are fighting to keep your head above water. In surviving, unless folks know you well, they don't even know you're struggling. You're keeping everything afloat. You are checking the boxes, getting the things done. Your nervous system knows, your body knows, but you can keep going. You can keep it going. In overwhelm, things start to crack. Things start to break. The warning sirens and sounds in your nervous system start going off, warning you to say, we're not okay. This is not okay. We need to change something. But because we don't know what to change, we just keep going. If we don't do something different and overwhelm, then we move to the phase I call burnout. When I define burnout, I call it the involuntary automatic shutdown. Something stops, something breaks, and you can't control when, you can't control what, and you can't control who's impacted. Because burnout is rude. It shows up how it wants to, when it wants to. Mm-hmm. So I just think it's important for folks to take a moment to think about where they are and to assess themselves, to determine where am I in these phases of burnout. And that will also help folks determine where they want to start concerning some strategies.
When, let's say, a lot of faculty or anybody, we may try to deal with burnout, as you call it, by getting more organized. Like, I just need to organize a few things. I need to become more efficient. I'll do this and I'll do that. But do those approaches fall short?
Absolutely. It's not enough. It's not lack of organization. As a matter of fact, for many of us, especially for those of us in the academy who've been conditioned and trained to be organized, that lack of organization is a symptom. It's a sign. It's a part of our nervous system crying out to us, telling us we need a little bit more help. So it's not, and oh gosh, I'm so glad you bring that up, because the shame that comes from, if I were better, if I did this better, if I was better equipped, if I had another certification, another degree, another thing, then I would not be in this space. That is the reason why we stay in the cycle of burnout, because we are achievers. We are accustomed to achieving and accomplishing and getting the things done. But sometimes the most productive thing you can do is stop.
Just stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is a tough thing to do.
It's hard.
We like to, just like people do on the road, they see that red light and they know they need to stop, but they keep on going. We talked about a little bit, you touched on some of those signs already, but I just want to make sure we have those signs of faculty burnout.
Yeah.
We want to really touch on that. What are the signs recognizing, okay, this is ordinary stress, and okay, now burnout, tick, tick, tick,
Yeah.
How do we look at that? And
Yeah.
what are those signs?
Yeah. So let's go back to those 3 qualifying factors. When the exhaustion is to the point that you are unable to function as you normally would. I meet with a lot of folks who struggle with their memory, not just I forgot this at home or I forgot this deadline, but even standing before a classroom trying to give us a lecture on a subject you know very well. And you're struggling to recall what you want to share. That's a symptom. That is more exhaustion than what should be normal. When a faculty member is questioning their ability to do the work well. So they are questioning if they are still a good fit to do this work, if they are accomplishing what they should. Sometimes there are folks who say, I know how to do the things, but I have no motivation to do it. I know the deadline is tomorrow, and I'm sitting here looking at my screen, and I cannot motivate myself to get this done. I just don't want to do it, right? We understand that all of us have pieces of our job that we love, and then there are those things that you have to do in order to keep doing what you love, right? So we all get that. When you're at the point where you don't know how to drive yourself to do the things, that's burnout, friend. That's more than just being tired.
And now that we've been through those symptoms to look out for, let's talk about the academic environment. In higher ed, so much of faculty work involves care. So teaching, advising, responding to student emails at 11 o'clock at night, carrying emotional weight for students at times. And especially for freshmen, that's where I tend to have a lot more of that to deal with. How does that kind of work make burnout, or does it make burnout more likely?
Yeah, it does. There's a term, compassion fatigue. So when you have carried the troubles, the burdens, the trauma of other people so much, that it is impacting your ability to function, it's compassion fatigue. And if we're not careful, it's easy to slip into because we think I'm the helper. This is not my trouble. I am not the one who is having trouble paying for my tuition, or I am not the one who has a food insecurity right now. I am not the one who is struggling to retain the information and not sure why I can't grasp the information like my peers. That's the student's trouble, and I'm just here to support the student. But what you don't understand is the secondhand impact, especially for an empathetic person, for a human being who cares, when you engage with other folks who are having struggles, specifically your students, and you take on the responsibility, you take on the weight, you take on the impact of those struggles, you begin to carry all of that yourself. So in addition to your own life, in addition to your own pressures and what you have, now you feel a responsibility. Here's the thing. None of us get into this without caring about the success of our students. If you do, you don't last long. We get into this because we care about helping students get across the finish line. We know the impact of this education on generations of their family, not just this individual student. We know that. Having that knowledge adds pressure because we want to fix all the problems. And we consider ourselves responsible for fixing all the problems. And when you have taken that on for years, many academic years, compassion fatigue shows up, and it definitely can lead to burnout.
Compassion fatigue. Write that one down. Thank you for that. Let's move into boundaries too, because we talked about that care, holding that burden, that compassion fatigue, but then boundaries. We talk about, well, we need to set boundaries, and that sounds good in theory, but I think in higher ed, we often feel like there's an expectation to always be available. Oh, you catch me on Teams, catch me by email, stop by the office. You can always find us. And I think some faculty, and I felt like this too, feel guilty if we're not available. But what do healthy boundaries look like for faculty?
Well, let me start by saying this. When I left that institution in August 2019, do you know that they are still open? They are still matriculating students. Students are still learning. Students are still graduating. And I'm not there. Can you imagine? I am not there. Here's the reason why. I say it in jest, but here's the reason why I say that. I felt like the success of all my students was on my shoulders. And I was responsible, especially for the students who trusted me and knew me and came to me as their help. What burnout taught me is I was significant to them, but I wasn't the only one significant. And although I did have an impact, those students were able to continue and accomplish their goals and move through their life, even without me being there. So here's why I say that first. Setting boundaries allows us to acknowledge our impact that we have, but also our limits and our limitations and what we can and cannot do. When we put ourselves in the position of the fixer of all, people begin to expect that. Students will treat you how you train them to treat you. So if you position yourself as their answer to every problem, they are going to come to you with every problem. So when we talk about boundaries, I encourage faculty members to create boundaries that are connected to pieces of your life that you are unwilling to lose, meaning family members, friendships, your physical health, your mental health, personal values. If you don't connect that boundary to what means most to you, you won't have the fortitude to keep it. You will have an opportunity every day to violate your own boundaries. When they are connected to pieces of your life that you are unwilling to lose, then you're more likely to hold firm to those boundaries. And let me say this, boundaries don't control other people. Boundaries are your limits for your life that protect what means most to you. So let's make it very practical. If I want to protect personal relationships or maybe personal health time, setting a time that I will check my email every day or a cutoff time not only allows me to protect those relationships, to come home and be at home and not check email while I'm making dinner, while I'm talking to children, right? It allows me to be present in another part of my life. But it also provides structure for the students that I'm serving. Students like to know if I receive your email before 5 o'clock, I will do my best to answer it. If it comes after 5 o'clock, I will not look at my email until 9 a.m. the next day. So I just want you to be aware of that. Doesn't mean I don't care. It doesn't mean it's not important. But I need you to know that these are the boundaries for my life. A couple things are happening there. Not only are we protecting and preserving what means most to us, but we're modeling for our students who are going out into the world to serve as well. People will do what you do, not what you say. So when we help them by communicating our boundaries compassionately and then holding to those boundaries honestly, we are creating a model for them to follow as they go out into the world to serve. They will have permission to put boundaries around their lives so that they can serve in a more sustainable way.
That's good stuff. So, what would you say to the faculty member who might feel shame or guilt for slowing down or resting? What's the message to them?
Yeah. I would say, whose voice is that? Let me tell you what I mean. One of the strategies that I teach is called check your backpack. I believe all of us have an invisible backpack that we carry every day, whether we realize it or not. And in that invisible backpack is every experience you've had, every lesson you've learned, whether formal or informally. And these lessons and experiences shape our lives, whether we realize it or not. So when we're in a workshop, I often ask folks, who taught you what work looks like and what did they teach you? What did you learn about work? What did you learn about success? Because often those messages of, I'm not doing enough, I have to be available all the time, I can't put a boundary up, I have to perform 10 times better, or I can't miss that email, or I have to be at every meeting, or I have to say yes for every opportunity. Those messages are in our backpack and they come from somewhere. And it may not be a bad place. I'll give you this example. I am from Crocketville, South Carolina. Don't worry, if you heard of it, we're cousins and we should talk about it later. But Crocketville is a farming community. Back-breaking, sweat-inducing work every day. These are the people who raised me. That was in my backpack. So when I came into higher education, I did not feel permission to say no. I did not feel like I could ever turn down an opportunity or an invitation. I felt like my door had to always be open and I had to answer every call and every need because I come from working people. I come from folks who do physical labor. So the story that was created in my backpack is I am in this air-conditioned, cushy office. How dare I say no? How dare I not show up? How dare I not go above and beyond all the time? I didn't realize that message was shaping my life until it drove me to burnout. So I'll go back to what I said in the beginning. For those messages that are driving faculty members towards overwhelm and burnout, my question is, whose voice is that? Where did you learn that lesson? And how do you need to adjust it to align with your life? Not to throw away what you've learned, not to toss it in the trash like it's no good, but what adjustments do you need to make in order for that lesson to align with the context of the life that you are living? That's what I encourage concerning those messages.
So we've discussed our backpack, boundaries. What other strategies would you offer faculty?
I'm so glad you asked me that question because this one is my favorite. I encourage faculty to discover their brilliance. Now, here's how I define brilliance. Brilliance is your innate, unique impact that you have on the world around you. It is not your job. It is not your job description. It is certainly not your salary. We are trained to think about what we do. It's all about what we do. Brilliance is about the impact, the fingerprint, the signature that happens as a result of you doing what you do. When you are standing in front of a classroom, what is the impact left on those students? When you are the chair of the committee, how do we see your signature on that work? The power of discovering your brilliance is that you no longer feel the pressure to perform or to contort yourself to fit into boxes, which is heavy and exhausting, but you show up freely to serve and allowing what is innately in you that you did not create, that is already in you, to flow freely from you. There is such a freedom and a powerful energy of reciprocity that happens as you are serving in your brilliance. I'll give you one quick example. I met a faculty member at Idaho State when I went to speak there, and I showed up at the building, couldn't find my way. I'm just wandering around this building, and I almost walked into this woman. I didn't see her. She didn't see me. We were both kind of startled, and she turned around. She said, "Dr. PBJ." And I said, "Oh, thank goodness they sent you to find me." She said, "Nope, but I can show you where you're going." So as I'm following her, she says, "You know, this happens to me everywhere I go." I said, "Really?" She said, "In the store, people ask me how to find the cereal. In the mall, they ask me how to find a store. As a matter of fact, we were at Disney World last year." She said, "We stepped off the tram. A family steps off the tram behind us." She said, "PBJ, there were Disney World people everywhere. And they turned to me and said, 'Will you help us find the castle?'" I said, "Well, what did you do, friend?" She said, "I opened up my little fanny pack, pulled out my extra map, drew the way to the castle, and got them on their way." I said, "Friend, do you know you're more than a sociology professor?" I said, "When students register for your class, it's probably because they're lost, because you help lost people find their way." And tears just filled her eyes. She said, "It's happened to me all my life." I said, "I know. It's because you're brilliant." That's the power of your brilliance. You may not put your finger on it. You may not be aware of it because it flows so innately from you. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to contrive it. You don't have to make it up. It's just who you are. But that is exactly what your students, your colleagues, your folks, your family, that's what they need from you. And the more you step into your brilliance, the more freedom you will feel in your work and in your serving.
What can colleges, universities do to
Yeah.
support faculty in meaningful ways to help faculty step down from this burnout, to know that they have permission to rest?
That's a powerful question. It's a powerful question because addressing burnout, there are two sides to one coin. On one side, it's what I call the heart work. That's what I have to do for myself. I have to work on my boundaries. I have to check my own backpack. I have to do that work with the help of coaches and counselors or whomever. That's one side. On the other side, I call that teamwork. That's what the institution owes to their faculty and their staff, not just higher ed, all organizations. We owe to do our best to create an environment where people can be well and can be healthy. There are three ways to do that. One, we need to create a culture where people feel comfortable speaking up when they're struggling. And that is not always true. What I often hear as I travel this country from faculty, I hear, if I speak up, they're going to think I can't handle my job. Or it's not safe to say no because I may be ostracized or disrespected, or, they may not honor my work, or I have to go through tenure and I have to prove myself. So overall, what I'm experiencing as I travel is the academy doesn't create an environment for people to speak up and say, this is not working, I am not doing well, or I've made a mistake. That there was a failure and we need to learn from it. So we've got to create a culture where people can speak up without retribution. That's psychological safety. We need to create an environment of psychological safety, in an environment where people have to defend their thoughts and their ideas and their work, where everything is graded and evaluated, where the competition is steep constantly. We have to be more caring about the environment we are creating for our people. So that's number one. In that environment, we need a language. We need an understandable language. We have acronyms and alphabet soup and all of these things where we speak to each other, and we've created this bubble of a language that only we understand. What are the words we say to say I need help? And who do I say it to? What are the words we say if I'm a new faculty member and I'm walking in feeling overwhelmed? Who is my person? Who can I go to? If I am a tenured faculty member and I may be looking at retirement and I don't know how I'm going to make it the next 5 years, I don't know how I'm going to finish this time, who do I speak to? And what do I say to them? So we need a common language that allows people to express how they're doing. And then finally, we need a plan. The only thing worse than not having a language is not having a plan after someone raises their hand. And when I say a plan, think fire safety plan, think any other crisis that we might have. We have crisis plans on top of crisis plans on top of crisis plans in higher education. We know how to write a crisis plan. Who's writing the crisis plan for burnout? We know too much now. We're too aware. We know it's happening. Who is sitting down to say, here is the plan for how we're going to prevent, protect, mitigate, recover from burnout within our faculty members? It's overdue for us to do that work.
Well, let's take a quick break and we'll come back and ask the continuing the conversation question.
Got a teaching idea worth sharing? Share it on AU Teaching Commons. We are Augusta University's first peer-reviewed hub of open teaching resources by faculty for faculty. Share your knowledge, help your peers, impact students. Visit us at guides.augusta.edu/AU Teaching Commons.
Welcome back. As we wrap up, I want to ask you our continuing the conversation question, which is, as faculty look ahead, what does real recovery look like, and how and what can they do to keep from falling back into that burnout pattern?
Yeah. I would like to offer a starting place, especially concerning this time of academic year as you transition into the summer. It would be easy to float right through the summer as busy as you are right now, running, doing all the things, and then all of a sudden August is upon you. My encouragement to you is to stop. Let me tell you how. There are 3 ways that I encourage you to reset your rhythm, to adjust your pace. And everybody's pace is different. So I am not defining that pace for you, but it is time for you to pause long enough to discover the pace that works for your life. And in order to discover that pace, 3 kinds of rest I want you to consider as you transition into the summer semester. Number 1, how do you find moments of daily rest? 3 to 5 minutes that you can stop and just consider what was just said. What conversation did I have? What meeting was I in? Our schedules are so full and packed that there is no time to process. We go from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting, never stopping long enough for our brain to have a moment to process, consider, critically think, be strategic. So where are the 3 to 5 minutes throughout your day that you can carve out a moment just to process? To write a note to yourself, to write in your journal, to take a walk outside and take a deep breath, to allow your shoulders to fall from your ears and your muscles to relax, and to actually breathe. 3 minutes, friend. Can you find 3 minutes? And if you can practice it during the summer, the challenge would be to continue as we come back to our fall semester. That's number 1. Number 2, where is your weekly purposeful pause? Where is the time that you disconnect from work and you are focused on rest and play? What is play to you? What do you enjoy? Where do you find fun? Not just fun for the family or fun for friends. What is fun to you? Where rest is not just a nap. Rest may be a social engagement. Rest may be an artistic, creative connection. Rest may be environment and grounding and grass or ocean and sand. Where are the moments in your week that you can disconnect from the phone, the IM, the chat, the email for fun and for restorative rest? So daily rest, weekly purposeful pause. And finally, my friends, at some point, where can you physically separate yourself from your responsibilities? I'm not talking about just sitting at home, because if you're at home, you're thinking about all the things you should be doing. I'm talking about going away if you can, or even going to a park for the day. When you are not physically in the environment of all of your responsibilities, you give yourself permission to stop. So sometime during this summer, I want you to practice your daily rest, several moments of 3 to 5 minutes throughout your day. Your weekly rest for fun, creativity, for environment, for connection. And then every now and then, your separation from your environments of responsibility so that you can breathe. That is where I encourage you to start. Start with a stop. And if you recognize that burnout is impacting you to the point where you cannot continue your work or do your work in the most impactful ways, I encourage therapy, counseling, or a coach. So I know you're used to being the help, but sometimes we need the help. And I hope you will do that for yourself.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us. And this is just a lot of wonderful, supportive information. This is a wonderful episode. I would really appreciate you being here.
It's an honor. Thank you for having me.
How can listeners connect with you online?
Absolutely. I would encourage folks to listen to my podcast. It's called Disrupting Burnout, and you can find it on any podcast platform. There are over 100 episodes there of me sharing. And so there's some resources there. And my website is patricebucknerjackson.com. Those are the best ways.
And we will have all of those links on our show page as well. So listeners, you can get to those, to her podcast and to her website very quickly. Well, thanks again for being here. And thank you for listening to Speaking of Higher Ed. To continue the conversation with us, sign up for our free Continuing the Conversation activity. It's designed to help you reflect on each episode and apply the ideas from today's episode in your own work. You can find it, along with all episodes and show resources, at augusta.edu/innovation/SOHE. Speaking of Higher Ed is produced by the Center for Instructional Innovation at Augusta University.